Okay, so thank you all for joining another cmBuilder workshop, the first of this year, right? So we're gonna explore a couple of things over here, including our ability to battle in an arena, right? So today is gonna be the theme is gladiator. So for the people that watched the second movie, put in the chat your comments. What do you think about it? So let's go. Move ahead over here, right? So our agenda for today, the main topic is the ability that to link manual milestones to an imported schedule, right? So this is a new feature that we released this week, and I'm glad to show you all about it. And after that, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple feature highlights. So importing a custom resource, something that a lot of people don't know that you can do it. There are a couple of things that need to be discussed before you do it, but people don't explore this feature that much. And the trenching review, just to talk about the trenching tool that I talked about in the last workshop, but now the tool is live and available in the product, so everyone can start working in using already, right? So a couple of housekeeping items over here as usual. The recording will be available in 24 hours on our playlist on the website and on YouTube. And you can check out all of our previous workshops on YouTube. A lot of good things over there for you to learn more about the tool. And you can use the QA or the chat to ask any questions. Okay, cool. So let's move ahead over here with the first of our tools that we're going to cover today, right? So what's new about this is that now you can pair manually created milestones to imported schedule, right? So before, the instructions that we were giving to people is that when you're working with cmBuilder, you should either decide to start with a schedule right away, or because it was the best practice, because it was going to be hard to link things once you created your schedules manually. But now you don't need to worry about that. You can start your work with manually created milestones and define them in the product. And then once you have like a proper schedule file, you can bring in that schedule file and connect the milestones to that file again, right? So you can sync the dates with new versions of that schedule, right? So you have them, and the interface is a little bit different now. So like there's a part of the step that is a little bit different, and you can adjust the task names quickly from this view, because then you can decide exactly what you're gonna choose for your schedule. Okay, so let's jump right into it, and I will, okay. So I'm going to use this scenario as a reference, our sandbox scenario. So as you can see over here, this is a scenario that has a lot of the tasks connected already. So I'm going to do this from scratch, right? So how to achieve this if you work with a manually created milestones, and then if you decide to bring in a schedule, right? So I have a clear scenario over here without any milestones. Let's say that I'm about to start working on this product, right? And I have a model placed over here. I forgot to place my model, so sorry about that. Let me put my IFC model, the structure. It's going to show up here in my view. I'm going to position it freely on the middle of my screen, just to have it as a reference for us today. And my beam model is over there at the bottom, because it's using the origin point of the Google Mesh. And if I center the model on the map tile, the model is going to show up in here. So this is something that a lot of people also forget, that you can do that. Like when you import a model in cmBuilder, the model will show up in a location based on a couple of things. So if there's no other models imported, the model will show up in the center of your screen. If there are other models imported already, cmBuilder will try to locate that model according to the previously located models. Okay, so if that sends your geometry far away, you can simply click to edit the model from here, and then click on to center the model on the map tile, and it will bring it to the view. Okay, so let's position this guy somewhere freely over here. And let's say that I'm going to go ahead and create my sequence, right? So I'm going to create a couple of milestones over here for side mobilization, right? Then I can go and do excavation, just like excavation in general. Then I'm gonna do like foundation concrete, and then maybe garage concrete, right? So a couple of milestones. I'm not gonna create all of them, but you can imagine that you could create like a bunch of generic milestones to cover those steps of your construction. And I could now like start to, okay, let's put tower concrete so we can finish this. So I can do all the sequence that I would usually do, right? So I'm just gonna put in one quick mobilization. I'm doing this live so you can see that all the actions that you're doing while you doing your plan, you can still do them with the manually created milestones, and you will still save time because you will place these objects later. They will automatically connect it to the linked milestones, right? So I can place this object over here, and I will go to my site mobilization. The last thing that I'm going to do over here is to put an office at this corner, just as an example. And then we are going to do maybe one excavation milestone. I'm going to do a big cut over here, not following too much the geometry to go a little bit fast. And we can now go in. And for the sequence, I'm going to isolate my model, right? So to do a temporary hide of everything else. And I'm also going to hide my map. And then I'm going to do my foundation concrete. So I'm going to select these from my milestone from my tree structure, foundation concrete, connect them to this milestone using my shortcut Control B. And then I like to work with this view over here where I can see only the elements that haven't yet been connected to the milestones. And from this, I will put the garage concrete on this milestone using Control B, and the tower concrete on this milestone using Control B as well. So now, very quickly, I have a, let me open this excavation plan for this cut. Yeah, there you go. So very quickly, I created my sequence over here where I have like a site mobilization stage, an excavation stage, foundation concrete, garage concrete, and then tower concrete, right? So let's say that I created my whole simulation and I presented this to a customer or something like that, and now I won the job, and now I have like a proper schedule file to work with, right? That was done by my team, and I will bring this file in here. So I'm going to go into project schedule. All of these milestones, they are not connected to any file, right? So if to know that, you can see that there is no icons in here to tell me that, and also there is no LinkedIn schedule in here. When I open this one, I have a file over here at the top, and I have my milestones connected in this little button over here to unlink things, right? So now I'm going to import a schedule, and from that schedule, I'm going to select like a MS project, but I could also select a P6 file or something like that. And I'm going to start bringing dates that I actually want to illustrate, right? So if I illustrate the dates that I usually use, like site mobilization, tower crane, and hoist, all of these guys, I can like select a bunch of things. And for these things, I will have like the definition of my steps of construction, right? So I could select a little bit more over here to say that I will do like a presentation that is a little bit more detailed. And now we get to the new part. The new part of cmBuilder is this view over here, where I can now connect some of these milestones that I selected to an existing milestone. So by default, all of them will have create new milestone as the default selection, right? But for this one, site mobilization, I already created that milestone in here. So I'm going to click on this and say, I want to connect this task from my schedule with my existing milestones in my site plan. So I'm going to put that into the site mobilization. So this will create that link, and whatever date it's coming from my my schedule will override the date that is in the manual milestones. So the same thing I'm going to do with this one over here. I'm going to connect the construction phase to the initial conditions. The excavation one, what I did was to represent the end of the excavation. So I'm going to connect the last excavation milestone to my existing milestone for excavation. And then I have one over here for foundation concrete, another one for the garage concrete, and then one for the last part of my tower concrete, right? So all the milestones that I created before, I'm connecting them to this schedule file. And if I want to reset all of these connections, I can click on this button over here to restart all of this process. And I can also turn on and off the append start and finish the end of milestone names. Before, this was turned on by default, and now it's off by default, right? So now when I hit apply, all of these new milestones will be created, and the ones that existed before are now connected to my schedule. So if I go back to the first milestone, you see that everything that I created so far remains connected now with the new dates and with that new schedule. So you see the excavation that I created before is now on bulk excavation number 3. The site mobilization stage, it's also assigned to the site mobilization, the concrete footings, the garage kind of like levels, a suspended slab, and so on and so forth, right? So these will give you like a little bit of like an idea on how to work with these elements. And sometimes you're going to be doing this work and you're going to notice a couple of things that you did wrong, or like you don't know exactly what is connected to what milestone. And I think that is a very good practice for you to look at these things also by going into the group by milestone and see the start milestone, right? So this will show you which milestones you have something connected to it, right? So when I click on this site mobilization, it will highlight those items, because inside of this milestone, I have resources that have their start date defined to that milestone. Same thing with this guy over here, same thing with these guys over here, and so on and so forth, right? So you have the ability to quickly and understand what is connected to your milestones. And this view is a little bit different than this one, because this one will apply only to the imported models, right? Whereas the other view that we have over here will show you also the resources, will also show you like other elements. Cool. So this is a little bit how it works, and that way you can work with like you can work freely without thinking about like how this will be disconnected from your models and so on and so forth. Like if you start with manually created milestones and so on, but you can also unlink all of these objects if you, for some reason, let's say that you want to unlink this, you can unlink it, and like all these milestones are now not linked anymore to the new dates, and you can download the schedule and work a CSV file, right? So there's one thing that we are doing right now that's going to be an update on this tool, is that we will apply an automatic link whenever you export a CSV file, right? So when right now this is not working yet, but it's the next step of this tool, where I click download schedule, all of these tasks will come in with a pairing ID already by default. So you will be able to export the CSV file and work with that without having to pair things again. Because right now, if I make changes to the CSV file, change these dates and so on and so forth, I can still like work with it, but I will need to reconnect these milestones manually, right? So if I want to export a CSV, and then I can come in here and upload that CSV file, bring it over, and I can select the same dates, right? All of them, because these are all the same milestones that already exist. And then I will need to like manually reconnect these all, right? So this part of the process of this connection that I'm doing right now will happen automatically with the new version of this tool. But doesn't mean that you can use this yet. You can already like work with it and then like reconnect all of these elements if you want to. Cool. But the good thing that you're gonna do this only once, because now if you bring in the new version of if you download the CSV again, it will already carry the links that I'm creating right now. Cool. So let's go ahead and finish this part. Connecting all of these milestones. When I hit apply, now there will be a new link with the schedule. Now that is the CSV file. And if I download this new one, you're going to see that this new download will will have pairing IDs filled in. So you can do that once, and then every time that you bring the CSV file again, you won't need to select these anymore because it will consider that this is the same file with the pairing IDs already connected. Cool. So if you have any questions about this process, you can just drop them in the chat and we'll be happy to answer them. Okay. So keep an eye on the new update with the CSV, where like you'll be able to do that automatically. And also, of course, if you're working with this tool, if you notice something that you have a suggestion of improvement or anything that you have to report to our team, always explore the ability for you to create feature requests, because that's the best way for us to know what we need to build next for you. And Nikan, this arm coming out of your ear is really distracting.
I gotta reposition myself.
No,
with the other arm in my other ear. How's that?
Anyway, so this is the new scheduling linking the milestones manually tool, and
Pedro,
we can jump. Yep.
question.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you're able to. I'm putting you on the spot here, but I know that a big focus of us right now and in the next few months is to improve the 4D and the schedule integration type stuff. Can you tease a little bit of like what is coming after this?
So yeah, we have like a lot of improvements that we want to bring on the tool, like related to this. So one is what I mentioned about the CSV imports and like the automatic connection. The two is the bulk add delete milestones, right? So right now our milestones are carrying a lot of information inside of them, like everything is connected to milestones. So we are not allowing yet people to delete all milestones at once to like prevent like the loss of a lot of work. So we plan to adjust this, right? The second one is with the new tool that will allow you to copy paste objects in between scenarios. This is also something that's coming soon. You'll be able to remap things like that are not present on both scenarios, so you can just like remap like how things are connected. The third one is the ability for us to create certain states of execution using the same geometry. So we plan later to have the ability to change the color of the geometry per milestone, right? So this is one big improvement that we want to apply. And I think that one of the big ones, probably the largest improvement that we're going to do on the 4D scheduling tool, we are not sure yet how that's going to look like, but the idea is to be able to create the work in progress stage, right? So you assign a start date to a part. There will be a work in progress state, and then there will be a finished state, right? So in one of our last workshops, the one that related to coding, color coding elements, I showed how to do a workaround to represent that, but that will be native in the tool at some point this year, I believe. Cool. Anything else that I forgot? Javi, you can? No?
No, just to summarize it. So right now we're doing a lot of work in terms of improving the workflow of linking and updating based on a schedule for your project that you link to your cmBuilder project. And then what we're going to work towards is improving the general sequencing capabilities within cmBuilder.
Exactamundo. Okay, cool. So let's go to the next item of our list over here today is the ability of importing a custom resource, right? So what is this about, right? So we have a tool here in cmBuilder when you go into buildings, and probably this shouldn't be inside buildings, but it's kind of like a remaining of how this tool used to work before. But basically now we have the ability for you to import not now, it was always here, but I want to highlight this, the ability for you to import a resource, right? So when I click on this, you see that you have like a similar kind of like interface related to importing 3D models like BIM models and scan models. But this one, we only have the compatibility with GLB files, right? So what it does is that it allows you to import parts that would work like a resource, right? So you will have the ability to set them to be dynamic or constant, where like you can change the position of that object within your milestone. So for prefabricated parts, that's kind of like super important. You can show where they're stored and then like where they move and so on and so forth, right? You can have a catalog of parts that you import that are stored on the project level, meaning that if I upload a new part, a new resource to a scenario one, that's resource will be available for all scenarios, right? So you have that catalog built per project. And then you can also add multiple instances of this. So like if I want to create like several of these steel beams, you have the ability to add more of these, and it's compatible only with GLB files. One thing that does not apply to this tool, but applies to the resources, the ability for them to be parametric, right? So if you bring in a geometry, the geometry will be exactly the same throughout the whole process. The only thing that you can change is the position of that geometry, right? So we have that as an ability for you to bring in. And the only thing that is a caveat to this tool is that you have to convert the file to a GLB format, right? So that's the only file that's compatible. And we usually suggest you to do that we're using Blender, right? So as far as I know, it's the only software that is free and that can export your GLB. But what the process to bring this into Blender can be a little bit tricky, right? Because Blender is not compatible directly, natively with IFC files, right? So you have to bring in to install an add-on called Blender Beam to be able to import IFC files into Blender. But if you have like a file that is a Revit file that has like prefabricated parts and so on, what you can do is you can bring that file inside Navisworks and then export to FBX, right? So Blender is compatible with FBX, so you can import FBX parts, right? So you can use Navisworks as your intermediate process to convert things to FBX. So basically, what I'm going to do is just go over here and FBX, and then I can like take a file that was created in Revit, but then convert it to FBX using Navisworks, and then I'll import that file in here. That file will show up somewhere, right? So it really depends how that file was organized on the origin. So right now, this geometry is not showing over here in the center of my screen because this file was geolocated. So that beam that I imported is super far away from the origin. But there are a couple things that you can do in Blender to bring that to like the center of your origin. You can see over here which file is it that, and if I bring in, I can simply select this mesh over here. And when I click on item, I can see how far this is from the origin location. So I can put in like 0, 0, and 0, and then that geometry is in here now, right? So you can see the dimensions of that geometry, so you can change things around over here. So for example, this beam has 18 meters. So if I want to change this, if I want to change how wide the beam is or how tall the beam is, I can change it from here. But this would be like simple adjustments that you're doing to that geometry. And then from those adjustments, you can go into File, Export, and then like export a GLB file. It's going to be called over here GLTF, but if you can see that there is a .glb file over here. And then from this, we can just go in and say this is going to be beam number 2. And there's one thing when you're exporting a GLB from Blender is that the transformation, Blender works mainly with Y pointing up, depending on the file format that you work with. So you need to go here and transform and deactivate this Y pointing up. And then when you export the GLTF, you're going to get that file as a GLB format. And then inside cmBuilder, I can go into imported resource, upload a file, and generic models, bring my beam number 2. This will convert. And once this convert, also a difference from like the actual resources is that this file will be shown in the resource in the middle of my map, right? So it doesn't give you the ability for you to position like you do with a resource, but you can always go and move this file around. And as you can see, this is a beam that was brought in from Blender. And the main difference and the main reason why you would do something like this actually two reasons. One is if you don't have the time to wait for our team to build the resource for you, you can start working with this, and then you can replace this later with the actual resource that you created the request for. Or, and also the second case, because you're going to use this as a dynamic tool, right? So I can make it show up in this milestone, and then in the next milestone, I will have it in another position. So when I play around with the milestone locations, this beam will have like two different positions, right? It still is recommended for you to work with requesting the resources, because we can create them in a better way, that we can put them in the library, we can make them parametric, and they will have like, you have more options for you to control that resource. But in the case that you're working with prefabricated parts that you don't want to request something that is specific to your project, you want to like move fast, you can go with this process, and we will help you like set these things up. Julio. Okay. Any questions about this part? If yes, just drop them in the chat, okay?
Yeah, and just to add to that, so for resources, when we make them, we optimize it so that it runs well on cmBuilder on the web, so it doesn't slow down your project, your scenario. We do have a bit of time for us to be able to deliver that to you, and we, prioritize it by subscription type. So be patient with us when requesting the resources, and then we only do the ones that are applicable to everyone. So if it's very specific to a project, we wouldn't be adding that to our library. Exactly. So it's good. This is to provide you an option for in terms of like speed, and also if it's something very specific to your project.
Yeah, and there is only one thing that I just remember as well about the GLB files, is that the engine that runs in cmBuilder to create this 3D environment for GLB formats and GLB files, like the shading for them will be a little bit darker. So as you can see over here, my beam is quite dark, right? But when I look for like in different angles, I will see like more of the color. So in Blender, you can decide to change that by clicking on the part, then going over here in material, and then you can play around with the color here a little bit before you export this into cmBuilder, just to get this a little bit lighter and so on and so forth. Okay. Okie dokie. So this is about importing a custom resource. Now we can go into the trenching review. I already covered a lot about the trenching on the last workshop. I just want to bring this back into the spotlight over here, because it's a tool that a lot of our customers requested, and I think that is interesting for everyone to know that it's already available now for everyone. When I did the workshop, it was not available, but now it's available. And the idea of the trenching tool is that you can create linear excavations quickly. You can, because you use one line as an input, and then you can define the profile of that trench, like how wide it's going to be, and you can also set up a slope angle for the bottom of that trench, right? So in a situation where I want to, let's say that I'm going to work with this scenario over here, and I'll have my excavation, but I need to do a hookup of like with the main line of like the water main. Here I can go into my excavation tool, and then I will create a trench, right? So there's this new option of a trench, and the idea of the trench is that you can draw a line, right? And then from this line, when you hit confirm, it will create a trench for you that will have this profile over here with this width, and this sketch elevation and bottom elevation is for you to kind of like refer to where the line is placed and what is the bottom of that excavation. But also you can define the trench depth from here, right? So you can choose these values that are related to sea level using these two buttons. And this is the same for like any element in cmBuilder that you see a button like this, is for you to select what is the sea level elevation in the map that you want to apply to this input, right? So doing that, You can see that my trench was created over there. Setting up the color for the trench, you set the color for the whole thing, the bottom and the walls. The profile is where you can place in like on the slope for the profile. Different from the excavation, the sloping from the for the trench will go all the way through always, right? You won't define what is the elevation of the slope. It will cut all the way through until top, and you can also like define what is the slope of that trench in here and so on, right? So the last thing about the trench that is super interesting and important is that you can have the trench sloped. So the slope bottom for the trench will start on the first point that you selected and it will go all the way through it. So like when I click on edit sketch, I can see where is the first point that I selected. There will always be in the origin point with this vertical and horizontal references. And when I click the slope bottom, like this grade is applied from here and going down all the way to the end. Okay, so this is the orientation of our slope. And then from here, you can do whatever you want with your sketching, with your trench. So if you want to go into the resources, you can type in over here on the all function. If I type in trench, I'm going to see some trench boxes, right? So you can place them as a point if you want to, or you can place them as a polyline. So when you place them as a polyline, usually what I suggest, just like place like it freely so you can see how the polyline controls that element. Because right now I'm noticing that I'm not placing the element from like the middle point. I'm placing it from one of the sides. So knowing that like that line controls this side of the trench, I can go back now on my edit sketch and I can align this line with the face of the trench, right? So snap this to that wall, and I can also snap the point to a face. So I can click on the point and snap it to this face. I can click on this point and snap it to this face, right? If I want to see exactly what the changes of my sketch did to the 3D geometry that's going to be generated from this, I can click on settings and click on live preview. So we'll see more or less what's happening over there, right? So don't worry about this kind of like placement because right now this is set up to project on terrain. So you just need to deactivate this and then you can move the trench down and up, or you can change like the height of the trenching of this object and so on and so forth, right? So now you have your trench over there all set up and like adjusted to it. Of course, you can adjust the function like for the width, for everything that you need from here directly. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. So this is it related to the trenching. And of course, you can place these elements in your timeline, right? So the trenching itself, you control it by moving these cuts and the trenching like throughout the timeline that you have, like on your milestones over here. So I can have my trench happening on excavation number 3, for example. And then when I go back, that trench is not there. And then when I go forward, it's there. And the resource that you place, you will connect it to the timeline with the same way that you connect everything else. Cool, cool, cool. There you go. So this is our trenching tool. And there's one last thing about this is that if you want to, I already covered this in another workshop, is that if you want to create pipes related to this trenching, we suggest that use 3D lines because the 3D lines will give you like a better looking and more customizable shaping for these objects, as long as you deactivate the project on terrain and make it solid. So this will look like a pipe. We do intend to create a utility creation tool, but that's further in the future. Okie dokie. So this is our trenching tool. Yeah, no chats? Come on, guys. It's a little quiet today. We can ask questions about anything, not just cmBuilder. How's life going? Anyways, so
I think people are watching the Gladiator movies, maybe. But we talk too much about the movies.
they're just like, okay, I'm gonna go to the movie now. Okay, so in terms of tips and tricks, that was one tip that I kind of like created this on the spot with a customer the other day, right? So the person was using zones to represent different staging of specific areas, right? So like I'm gonna do a clearing here first, then I'm gonna, I don't know, place formwork, then I'm gonna place rebar, then I'm gonna place the concrete, then I'm gonna wait for it to cure and things like that. So for every one of these stages, that person was creating a new zone and then assigning it to the milestones, right? So if you had to change the shape of the zone, you would need to change the shape of all of them, right? And then it's just like a hassle, right? You need to manage a bunch of like individual parts to create things like that. If you have like a huge area, you're going to be working a lot with these elements, right? So what I suggested for that user, and I think it really helped, was the ability for you to create this with massing instead, right? So in a situation where, like, for example, I want to have like different zones related to, I don't know, like clearing this area and then pouring concrete and putting formwork over there. What I would do in a situation like that, which would be to create a massing, and I will do the first like shape of like the staging that I want to do, right? So if I wanted to divide this area into 4 stages, I will go ahead and do this. And then in this is a workaround, okay? So the idea is that you will create the stories. The number of stories will be the same number of stages that you have. So like, let's say that I'm going to do clearing, formwork, rebar, concrete pouring, uh, curing, and then I don't know, the part is done, right? So I'm going to create 6 stages and I'll keep like a very small story height. And you can, like, I have the colors over here with like certain transparency. You can choose if you want to do transparency or not. But let's say that I want to start with like a white color, right? So I'm not going to create the other maskings yet because I want to use this masking as my template of those staging. So I'm going to change the names over here to clearing. Then we're gonna do what was the other thing that I said? Form work, form work. Then we have rebar. Then pouring, uh, curing, and then done. Right. So also, what I'm gonna do with each one of these stages, I will assign a color to them. Like you're gonna understand in a minute what I'm about to do over here. So like I'm gonna change the colors over here to each one of these stages. So this one is gonna represent like one stage is gonna be yellow. This other one is gonna be red. This other one is gonna be blue. This other one is gonna be, I don't know, purple. And I want you to use the green for the completed one, right? So now that I have my stagings done over here, I can get this massing that is already all set up with the proper names and things like that. And then I can go ahead and copy paste that massing to place them like in the other steps of like that I want to use for this area. And if I need to adjust the shape of these massings, you can simply like select all the levels, going to edit story over here, edit sketch, confirm, and then you're going to start reshaping the maskings that you have selected, right? So I like to work with this show previous masking turned off because I want to see like something like that, you know. And then for this one, I'm going to do the same, edit sketch, and then I will change the shape of this masking, right? So now I have like all of these maskings. Of course, like I would spend some time like reassigning the elevations and to like have like now these stages of construction over here. So basically what I want to do is I want to go into the first masking, right? And then I will assign the clearing stage for this milestone. Then I'm going to go to the next one and I'm going to assign the formwork stage and then the clearing for the second one. And then I would do something like that all the way through, you know, to like show progress for all of these objects, right? So pouring, then will be rebar, then will be formwork over here, and so on and so forth, right? So let's go back over here in the first one. And I'm gonna hide the ones that don't have completed yet. And then you're gonna see that I'm gonna start moving forward with these milestones, and it shows like the different colors related to the progress stage of each one of these, right? So It's a workaround for the fact that we don't have yet the ability to change zone color of the zones, but this is also something that we want to do. But it will really improve the efficiency of the work when you're working with like a huge area and you need to just simply highlight what is being done on these areas in different stages, right? So using the massing tool will keep like a consistency of the shape of the massing and also a very interesting kind of like organization of the stages in your tree structure so you can quickly assign them to the milestones. Cool.
What would be the benefit over doing this way over zones?
Because the zones, like I would need to draw each zone, and if I want to change the shape of one zone, it would change the shape of all of them, and I would need to keep doing like all the colors for every zone in every one of these stages. Right now, I just did it like I drew, like I created like 6x4 zones, like 24 zones very quickly with the colors already predefined, with the names predefined, and so on and so forth, right? So it's an easier way for you to kind of like create this color coding for like the usage of the area.
So you could
Cool.
just drop a label on top of each of it and link the label
Either
to the
that,
milestone
or
too,
you
right?
can just like put like a legend over here on the side if you want to as well. You can just put the names of the colors and like what they're referring to. So I know I've seen a couple of customers doing these kind of like legends on the side, right? So it's quite interesting.
Like in 2D mode, right?
Yeah, yeah. 2D mode, like you would go in, like if you know what these colors represent, you can simply, I don't know, maybe you can create a zone in here that will be all white, and then this zone will represent just the background of my legend, and then I can put the labels in here with what each color represents, so say this, and then like I don't know, form work, something like this, and then this will be yellow, or you can keep it black and then the background will be yellow, something like that.
That's nice.
You can play
I
around
know
with
it
like
comes
what
up
you
a lot.
want to do.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
definitely a great use case for like larger
Mm-hmm.
spans of like when you're setting up a site, when you're doing multiple phases, when you're just doing
Yes.
that like basic high level thing. That's great.
Yeah. I've seen a couple customers doing this already, but the only thing that is advantageous to do this with zones is because the zones will be able to project on the ground and follow the shape of the terrain. So this might not work super perfectly if you have like a very complex shape of a terrain to go through, right? So in that case, using the zones will be a better solution. Cool. I saw a little question on the chat
Yeah,
over
there's a
there.
question about how to import the custom resource. How
Oh,
did you
what did you
do?
click to
Where did you
import a
click?
custom resource? Over here inside buildings, you're gonna find like this imported resource option, but also any tool that you can start from here about like importing or adding objects to the scene. You can also start these from like the tree itself. So if you go into the tree, you're gonna find this imported resource, and you can click on the plus button to start that. And this applies to any other tool that is in the tree structure. Cool. Okay, nice. So the next tip is more for new users and like people that need to onboard new teammates, right? So we have new tutorial videos right now that Calum created, and they are very focused on the process, right? So when you open the tutorial videos playlist over here in cmBuilder, you will see the first videos that shows like cmBuilder tutorial. They are videos that are referring to the use of the feature, but they are not within the context of like creating a project. It's more like just understanding how that feature works. But if you scroll the way down, you're going to see these 3 new videos that are very focused on the process of creating a scenario with instructions and so on and so forth. So it's very similar to the agenda that we use for like the training sessions, right? So the training sessions are better in a way that we can customize more and like interrupt you to answer questions, of course. But in a situation where you prefer to just like jump in and like start the work yourself, or if you want to send something for new teammates to start working with this with cmBuilder, you can send these 3 videos so they can understand what is the step by step of like creating a new project from scratch. Cool. So
And
this
this
is
is
just like
based
a
on our sandbox project. Sorry to jump in there,
mhm.
Pedro. So if you want the actual project to work based off of, to follow the same steps and work with the same model and surrounding environment and everything, just let us know and we can set that up with for you.
Cool, cool, cool. Yep, yep. So yeah, so explore this, send this to people that just joined the company and wants you to learn more about cmBuilder. It will really help them like get it going. Okay. So the next tips and tricks that I have over here is just the comment layout update. This is a very small update, and I'm not going to talk too much about what's coming soon, but the idea is that we are improving the comment feature, and this will be live. The new version of this feature will be live in a couple weeks, and the idea is that we will increase the capabilities of the comment tool. Right. So right now the comment tool already changed the layout. You're gonna notice some differences, but there are a couple buttons over here that are new, right? So if you select the comment, for example, where I ask Callum over here, "What's up, bro?" You can click on View Comment, and then in the next version of this tool will have like a thumbnail and things for you to like more elements for you to work over here. And now you also can copy a link to this and like send it to someone like directly if you don't want to tag them in here, right? So there are a couple of things that are coming. I'm not gonna like just discuss too much about this. It's just because like if you're starting to use if you're already using the commenting tool, you're gonna notice that the interface changed, the UI has changed a little bit over here. So don't be rattled about it.
If you're not going to comment, I am. I'm excited about this. It's like making it more like a thread, almost like you're in. It's
Mhm.
going to be more almost like a Slack channel, right? Where you're like grabbing screenshots, dumping it in, tagging people, having a thread view, and then we will
Yeah.
share right to that same view and even tie camera angles. So if you have a camera angle in the slide, the camera, it'll link to the comment. So it just
Yeah.
makes the comment tool much more powerful.
I wanted to bring the
Steal your
attention
thunder
into this.
for next week.
No, because like I wanted to bring
You're
the attention to
sandbagging. You're
this, right?
sandbagging, Pedro. You're sandbagging. I know you're saving that for next one. I don't buy it.
And the reason why is because like I know that not a lot of people use the commenting tool, and I think it's a very powerful tool to increase collaboration. So I wanted to highlight this so you guys can start working on it already, and you like wait for the new stuff that is coming in. Cool. And the last thing that I want to talk about today is about the ability to explore linear resources. The other day I was talking to a customer and he was asking about like the idea of like placing resources as a group or like a bunch of resources at once in this scenario. And I noticed that he didn't know that you could add certain resources, you could add them as lines as well. So for example, demolition, right? So if I wanted to represent like a demolition of a building, like this building over here, and I want to show that like there is going to be like a lot of debris coming out of it, you might want to go in here and then put like a debris kind of like stockpile. And if you click on this, the default placement for this debris is a point resource. So if you place it, it will show only one instance of that resource that you can go in and then change the shape of it, right? And so on. And if you want to create more of this, you can hold Control C, Control V, and then have a tedious time over here copy pasting a bunch of these, right? So for this one was not that bad because I like you only have like a couple of instances. But if I wanted to do something way larger, I could click click on this guy, and instead of adding as a point, I will add it as a polyline, right? So when I click on this, I will have the option to create a repetition of this resource, and you can draw like weird shapes just to create like a area of like debris, and then this will show up repeating using that polyline, and you can go over here and then like change the shape of these debris and create like a large area way faster than copy pasting these objects, because also now like this is one single object, right? So a lot of objects in cmBuilder will have the ability for you to place the same object using as a polyline. So for example, container office, right? I can put this as a point, but if I go into polyline and I draw this, polyline over here, I'll have the option to place like several of these containers at once. And especially for these ones, you want to play with the spacing as well. So when you apply a custom spacing, you have the ability to define the spacing in between being measured from the center point of each one of these objects. So if I put this like as, I don't know, 8 meters apart from each other from the center point, I'll have like my little village of containers placed over there that I can manage as one single object. So some objects you have the ability also to rotate it. So if I place this shipping container in the same way, you see that the containers are showing like this, but there is a parameter in here for you to change the orientation of this pattern, right? So when I change this to 90 degrees, now the same pattern is applied, but like on the other way, right? So you can come in here, go into the custom spacing and play around with the spacing the same way that I did for the other ones, and have the ability to create like these arrays of objects and like tackle a whole area at once. And one of the big use cases for this is vegetation, right? So instead of you placing like trees point by point in a location, you can go and change this to polyline, do a very weird Picasso kind of like work of art over here, and then you go ahead and populate this whole area with trees, right? So when I hit confirm, that area is now populated, and these whole group of objects will be managed as one single object, right? So this is interesting because you can do that, and we do intend to, like in the future, to create other ways of placement, like a brush where you can simply drag your mouse while clicking it, and it will start to populate that, and maybe some vertical patterns as well, some area placements. And you know how you can tell us what you can do, what we need to do next? You need to go over here on the question mark and then put a feature request and let us know what is the next placement type that you wanna see, right? I felt like a YouTuber now, like hit subscribe or whatever, you know.
Smash that
For
like
the
button. Smash it.
Smash the like button, yeah.
for the brush thing, just throw a Bob Ross gif in there.
Exactly. We will understand. We get the gist.
Oh,
Yeah, so I
nice.
think that's it
Ben
for
just Ben
today.
just popped a nice screenshot. Ben just popped a nice screenshot in the chat. It looks good, Ben.
That looks
Nice,
Look at
nice,
amazing.
nice. Cool. Thank you, Ben. Right. So I think that's it for today. Of course, we're gonna hang out a little bit over here if you guys want to ask questions, anything. But what we covered in our session today was the ability to link manually created milestones to a schedule file. How to import a custom resource if you have it, trenching reviews, how to work with the trenching tool again, then color-coded areas with massing, updates. Oh, this is wrong. That's not what I wanted. This is new tutorial videos. Yay. There you go. Nobody noticed that. New tutorial videos, comments, layout update, and the linear resources where you can explore all of that, right? So thanks a lot for joining today. We were hanging out around here for
shameless
questions.
plug. Shameless plug. Nikon put it in the chat there, but we're doing a customer spotlight and a product update next week where I'm gonna spend about 15 minutes showing all the biggest things we're doing in the next, whatever quarter, something, things like we're working on an animator, we're working on a growth profile, all kinds of stuff. So we'll show some of that, and then we'll be able to visit with some great customers showing great projects. But hope to see you next week.
Yeah, it's always good to join those sessions because you can see live like how other people are using cmBuilder and how they're leveraging value out of it. So you can get inspired to do something with cmBuilder that you didn't think that was possible, right? So it's great to see that, right? Cool. Okay.
See,
That's it for the main part.
Hand raise? Was that by mistake? We can't turn off your mic.
He just wanted to clap, I think.
Okay. It's a high five.
All right, Pedro.
Cool. There you go.
All right, high five.
Awesome.
High fives to everyone.
Yes. Okay, that will be a weird clip on this video, just us doing this.
Yeah, we got 6 minutes. We got 6 minutes back for West Coast lunch here. Anyone in the West Coast, you get 6 minutes back for your lunch.
Okay.
Thanks,
See
everyone.
you all.
Have a great
Have
day,
a nice
everyone.
one. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.